When you defeat the bosses of Boletaria, take a closer look at the dissipation effect that they leave behind. Traced really briefly in their soul remains is an imprint of their human form. The Tower Knight, the Penetrator, and True King Allant all have this fairly straightforward imprint, but what helps to mark these as truly special are the soul remains of Phalanx. Take a look. Here we see a bowman, or perhaps more specifically a bowwoman, since Phalanx is a demonic reflection of a character called Longbow Ulan, who is one of the legendary Boletarian heroes.
King Allant led Boletaria with a round table of the bravest knights. The noble twin Fangs, Valafax and Bjor. Alfred, the Tower Knight, Metas, the Penetrator, and the brave tribesman Longbow Ulan and his fearsome legions.
So, despite being a more monstrous demon than the others, Phalanx too leaves behind a human imprint, as she is one of 4 Boletarian heroes that inspired the Old One's demons. And as far as I've tested, it's only these 4 bosses that leave behind a human imprint, but it is also interesting to note that some boss soul icons do have shapes that correlate to their character, like the lightning bolt of the Storm King, the winged dragon god and false king, the searing demon soul, and you can even see spider legs in the hard demon soul. For more secrets like this, listen on. And thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. So while it's easy to assume that these heroes were transformed into demons, Bjor suggests that these boss fights are more accurately reflections of these heroes that the Old One is creating instead. In his Japanese dialogue, he calls Penetrator a brazen sham of a knight. And we can trust Bjor's opinion on this because he too was a hero of Boletaria alongside Metas, the knight that is reflected by the Penetrator. If we're looking for the actual souls of these heroes, perhaps we should refer instead to their Black Phantom forms, who Bjor calls the Black Souls of Great Knights. Now, you might have noticed earlier that Ostrava called Longbow Ulan a he, but this has long been held to be a translation error, since the original Japanese doesn't ever specify their gender. What does clue us in to Phalanx or Ulan's gender though, is one of the 3 Black Phantoms that you fight in 1-4. One is the Black Phantom form of Alfred, the Knight of the Tower, carrying the Tower Knight shield. The next is Metas, the Knight of the Lance, carrying the Penetrator's sword, and the 3rd female phantom is, logically, the tribesman Longbow Ulan, who carries a white bow and a kilij, which are weapons that actually have connections to other tribesmen of the Shrine of Storms. So all of these characters are interwoven, from their boss forms to Ostrava's dialogue to their Red Phantom forms as well. So similar to Old King Allant, who is a demonic reflection of the true King Allant writhing beneath the Nexus, the demon Phalanx, Tower Knight, and Penetrator are all demons that the Old One modelled off of Boletaria's existing knights, who are more true to their form in the Black Phantoms of 1-4. In fact, it's actually these exact Black Phantom models that make up the imprints that are now left behind in their boss soul remains. I can tell this because Penetrator's imprint doesn't have a helmet, and the Tower Knight's imprint is wielding a scraping spear, and Phalanx's imprint is obviously Ulan, the bow-wielding Red Phantom. But if you're still not convinced that Phalanx is this female Red Phantom, listen to the pain and death sounds of Phalanx added into the remake. Bluepoint has gone so above and beyond with their sound design. I like it because they're really expanding that From Software creed of adding details to their game that so few will notice, but that add wonderful value and depth all the same. Another great sound example, though, can be found when you approach a few select gates in the tutorial, through which you can hear the tormented screams of humans and the gluttonous growls of the demon vanguard. On a less immersive note, if you look carefully through the credits screen, you can actually see a bunch of goofy-looking goat faces, some of them very well hidden. And Bluepoint has a bit of a history with this. In their Shadow of the Colossus remake, 4 goat paintings were found around the enormous world. And again, they were very well hidden, to the point where players still aren't quite sure if there's a 5th goat lurking somewhere. Nothing has come of these discoveries to this day, so in my opinion it's pretty likely that this is just an internal joke for the company, or maybe we're the internal joke, and they're just laughing at how desperate we are to find everything. The thing is, you never really know with Bluepoint, because sometimes they deliver real results. In one of my recent videos, we talked about the 11 ceramic coins that you need to find if you want to unlock the secret door to the Penetrator's armor, but we speculated that there might still be 2 more coins to discover, still hidden within the fractured world. Well, a few hours after that video released, those 2 coins were found. One is in Pure Black World Tendency, halfway through the 3rd stage of Boletaria Castle, requiring you to jump over this ledge onto the platform below. I can see why no one found this until now. Putting it over a ledge jump that wasn't in the original game is just so genius. The other coin is in the 2nd stage of the Valley of Defilement, which is one of those areas that must have had like 100 players going through it at one point, and we found nothing then, but after seeing the coin, I understand why. In Pure White World Tendency, you need to fall through this tiny little gap on this nondescript piece of scaffolding to land on a platform that contains the coin. God damn. This brings our total to 13 coins per new game cycle, and since you need to trade 26 with Snuggly to get the rusted key that unlocks the door in 1-3, that means you can actually get the Penetrator's armor set in New Game Plus now, which is a huge improvement over going to New Game Plus Plus. One of the funnier quirks with these coins was that they break if you try to trade them to other players, which is something that prevented players from duping the coins by rolling back their saves, but what it seems Bluepoint didn't realize is that players can drop the coins for their host's crow instead. So in this way, if someone drops their coins here for you as a host, you can reload your game as if you dropped an item for Sparkly, and you will receive the other player's coins back from Sparkly instead. Maybe they'll patch this soon, so if you want the Penetrator armor in New Game, this might be your only opportunity. Before we knew that ceramic coins were needed to open the secret door, players also speculated that it might have had something to do with the odd, sharp echoes that you can sometimes hear when you're playing through the game. Even now, it is kind of hard to know if these are a glitch or something more. User Yojimbo the Despised has this great post on Reddit breaking down how and where a lot of these sounds appear, and they even managed to get some great audio of it happening in the Nexus. Have a listen. I recommend you read their full post, because what if there is something more to these? Wait. I mean, that kinda sounds like... One glitch that I hope they don't patch is the ability to continue wearing body type locked armor after customizing your character at the Statue of Reflection. What's also weird is that they did remove the body type restrictions on some armors. You can wear the binded set from Meralda on any character now, for example. Shortly after release, notorious Souls expert Illusory Wall tweeted, "I wonder how long it'll take for the community to discover a new glitch in the Demon's Souls remake that was actually just undiscovered and in the original this whole time." It turns out, not long. When I told him about a tweet that I received claiming that enemies in the remake were less alert to sounds based on the weapon that they were holding, he tested it in the original and it was there as well. If you are two-handing a large weapon over your shoulder like the Dragonbone Smasher, then enemies that are supposed to be able to hear you have their sound impeded for some reason. By contrast, this character holding a smaller dagger is detected far earlier. We discover so many things as a community, and one thing that my chat pointed out while I was fighting the Storm King on Twitch was the amazing way that the rain particles work in this fight. So when the enormous Storm King passes over you, the rain particles are actually completely blocked and it stops raining on your character. Isn't that crazy? Similarly, when you shoot a blast from the Storm Ruler, it shears this path through the rain and blasts the particles away with force. This game, man. The first stage of Latria here has a very different tone to the original, thanks to the noble woman's singing. And while I personally prefer the haunting tone in the original, which I consider canon, I can't help but think about the implications of the song that she's singing in the remake. It's a song from the Demon's Souls soundtrack, Return to Slumber. It makes the atmosphere here melancholy, even calming. Return to Slumber is basically a lullaby after all. It's the song that plays after you choose the good ending at the end of the game, after the Maiden in Black lulls the old one back to sleep. An interesting thing about her singing it is that it does make some sense for the once royal mistress to be singing such a song. Her and her fellow nobles were imprisoned in Latria, after all, and she complains that the demons feed upon their souls, so of course they'd want to end it by putting the old one back to slumber. But even if it's not a reference to the old one, and it's probably not, it does still make some sense for her to be filling the dungeon with a calm atmosphere. When you talk to her, she speaks of how her fellow prisoners are lured above by talk of redemption, but it's a lie by the demons to lure them out, of course. But by singing a comforting song, not a haunting one, she is perhaps encouraging her fellow prisoners to stay below, to stay sane. It's a song of solidarity with them. So again, while I feel like something is lost from the original atmosphere, that doesn't mean something else can't be gained. I actually find this applies to a lot of changes in the remake, if you think about them critically, and even if you dislike something, changes do spread awareness about what made the original Demon's Souls so great. One thing that definitely wasn't in the original was a Dragon Ball Z reference. Choose this phrase to be offered a number list, and hidden at the bottom is this very cool reference. Deserves a chuckle, at least, right? And now you can even laugh in-game. You laugh when you put on the fat official's cap, and you grin evilly in the character screen. I love this additional flavor, it's great. But I will say, I miss the old fat official laugh. There was just something so unsettling and inhuman about it. But while I don't agree with every change, Bluepoint just bought themselves so much goodwill by responding to fan feedback and changing some things before release, like the Flamelurker's design. Another example though is when we all saw a preview of the fluted set, we all reacted pretty negatively, since the helmet in the previews looked way less fluted than it did in the original, but the original helmet is in the game. And I don't know if they added it in as a response to this feedback, but you can get it, it's just pretty hidden. So when you start up the game, opt into the journey to the Nexus and defeat the Vanguard. The trick is to bait his short-range attacks and then get behind him indefinitely. If you die here, you can never return, but if you defeat him, the game takes you to the unknown Egress. In this area, you can pick up the fluted helm, which is a really special reward. One of the main reasons that the Vanguard design has grown on me is the attention to detail with its design. So you probably know there are 2 demon Vanguards in the game. One in the tutorial and one in the Shrine of Storms. And you might not have noticed this, but there's actually a design discrepancy between the 2 of them. The one that inhabits the castle is Shackled. It has cuffs on its limbs and it has chains that are designed very specifically for its upper torso. This proof of past imprisonment or restraint is a part of its story here, because it links it to the environment and sort of tells a story that you can imagine about the soldiers in this place. Maybe they once restrained it, but now it seems like they guard and possibly even feed it. Alternatively, the one in the shrine is entirely free of shackles, perhaps suggesting that it encountered less resistance when it was at the front of a demon army going through this place. We should all be free of shackles like this, and that's kind of what it feels like to use a VPN. So having ExpressVPN is also kind of like being in the Nexus, because with the click of a button, you have the freedom to travel wherever you want, to open up a world of new content for your existing streaming services. Take Netflix, for example. If you're in the US, you can't watch any of Miyazaki's movies, so with one click, let's travel to World 1, Australia, where the entire suite of Ghibli films is now available for viewing. But in Australia, where I live, I can't watch the Berserk trilogy, which is the series that inspired a lot of Dark Souls, if you didn't know. So let's go to World 2, Japan, where I can now access this huge range of anime that isn't available in the West. But Western fantasy inspired these games as well, so what about Lord of the Rings? It's not available in the US or Australia right now, but if I set a Canadian IP through ExpressVPN, it safely routes my connection through a different country, my IP and my location are hidden from third parties, and I get access to their content, so I can easily view the full Lord of the Rings trilogy in just a few clicks, and this is all with my existing Netflix subscription, so you don't deserve to be limited by the country you're in. That's why I like using VPNs, and ExpressVPN is one of the best. So sign up today with the link below. That's expressvpn.com/vartividya, and you can find out how to get 3 months free. But thank you guys always for watching and listening as well. Maybe tell me what other shows I should watch in the comments with my 3 months free. I'll talk to you next time. Okay, I've got a bonus secret for you guys. I was about to set this video to render and it was literally just discovered, so I do want to talk about it. There's a ring called the Providential Ring in this game. You can choose it as a starting gift, or you get it if you buy the Digital Deluxe Edition, but apart from that, until now, no one knew how to get this ring, and you needed this ring to get the Platinum Trophy, so a lot of people were in a situation where they couldn't get the Platinum Trophy because they didn't choose this ring as a starting gift, but someone just figured out where it is in the game. You have to go to Sparkly the Crow and trade a large Sword of Searching with her in order to receive it from her, and you get the large Sword of Searching from upgrading a +8 curved sword with the Hero Demon Soul, which you get from the old hero boss in the Shrine of Storms. So that's it. Don't feel pressured to choose this ring in the starting menu anymore, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.